I'm going to pop up our disclaimer for today.
Whoop. That's you didn't pop up the slide.
Oh, I popped up the other one. Okay, well, let me get it correct somewhere here.
These are required for the CME requirement. So
there we go.
This
is the correct one for today.
Take a second and read it, I guess.
You go on that
Mostly
one.
that no commercial support was received for this CME activity.
And I'm going to pull up our agenda for today.
Okay, so why don't we just move into this officially. So good afternoon. Welcome to the third session of PACE screening for parental ACEs and PCEs. Today, we have I think a really cool agenda because we're going to focus on the resources that are available in our community, or at least to give you a overview of that, some specifics, and hopefully that will give you some sense of what's out there. I know this is one of the big questions that a lot of medical practices have been concerned about as they do ACE and PCE screening, is how does what do you do after that? And so this is a session that is primarily going to be focused in that arena. Before the end of it, we also want to discuss the agenda for the fourth session, which we've left open. So hopefully you have some ideas, and if you don't have ideas today, then we'll invite them, in the next few weeks. Let's see. We have several guests on, and we'll introduce those one by one as we go forward, who are going to be the resources for the resources. So we'll introduce those as we go forward. So that is overall the plan for the day. So let me just dig into this. I want to now let's see. I need to share my screen. So I want us to just bring us back a little to the guidance that we've developed for the screening process, and we want to focus today on the second recommendation, that is that reads: parents and caregivers should know there will be follow-up and should know the provider has helpful resources available before being asked to do the screening. And so this is from the guidance document.
Make it just a little bit bigger, maybe, or
okay, sure.
Or full screen or something.
Yeah, I was trying to find where my full screen thing is. Darn it, here's the full screen thing.
Just make it a little bit bigger. The 100 and go up to the top, and where it says 100, just hit the plus button. Down on the black line, shoot, go over the other way.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That's great. Thanks.
Okay.
Yep.
So the love it. So in the guidance document, starting on page 28, we focused on what the parent advisory committee and staff focused on some of the things that people felt like were important for resources. And so we've tried to in the presentations that we have today, they're going to focus a lot in this area. We've heard a lot from Dr. Gillespie around that a lot of the resources that people need aren't necessarily more than, and sometimes it's just the listening side of this and not necessarily the side of needing really referrals of various kinds, but we do, but sometimes those will be necessary. And we like this quote, which was part of something that was on the PACES Connection website from Deirdre Bernard Pearl. And she says, many people with ACEs don't want an intervention. Maybe they're not ready for something, or maybe they don't need anything. It's been a very humbling process where we've learned to make a shift from the medical model of telling people with positive screens what to do to being much more humble and asking them what it is they want or need. And I think, the people in this group, the medical practices, you all are very geared that direction. But what we did break it down to look at, what are some of the kinds of things that people need. And again, the resources that we're going to bring in, the people are going to talk about these in these more or less in these categories. Things like concrete supports, food, shelter, other things that are really, physiological needs. Sometimes, people, need referrals to professionals. And so we want to talk a little bit about that. Mental health professionals, psychologists, counselors. In some cases, will be the right intervention. Many times people have really asked about things like peer support, referrals, and self-help, things that are more, about supporting their parenting. And so we will talk some about that, or people will be talking about that. We have, and then we have a couple of the resources that we're bringing in are really the resource, the referral nets like 211 and findhelp.org, and so you'll be able to look at those as well, so that you'll know, like, those run the gamut of the kinds of programs and opportunities there are that would provide supportive supports for folks. So that's overall what we're, what we're going to do for the day. But I did want to draw you back to this, draw you back to the guidance document, because it does have all this information in it. And so hopefully that will be something you'll be able to use in the past or in the future. And then I always like to leave it with this. I believe parents want a better life for their children. And, that's really our guiding principle, is to figure out how, we can provide the best things that help people to be the, kind of parents they want to be. Was there anything else in this regard, Liz, that we wanted to add? I think that was kind of the overview.
That's great. Yep.
Okay.
That document is on the Idaho Children's Trust Fund website, along with a lot of other good things.
Yeah, all the materials, and we're going to walk through all those materials before the end of this time together. Any questions at this point? Okay.
I have one.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Carrie Sipp. I'm from PACES Connection, and we'll be sharing some information with y'all. But honest to goodness, this is a good story, Roger Sherman and Liz Paul. That y'all have put this together, and I think that there are other states that would love to know about this. So, and the fact that these materials are available on your website, just know that I'd really love to see either y'all write something up about how this came about, or maybe I can write a blog post about it and share this if y'all are willing to. I guess I'm probably putting you on the spot by saying it in front of 13 other people, but well, this is the way to ask a question, right?
There you go. Well, we'd be happy to do it. We've been, this has been a, we've been at this for quite a while, and so there's a lot of good information that we've collected and so on. So hopefully other people can benefit from that too. So yeah.
Thank you. I think it could be a big help to a lot of people. Thank you.
Well, lots of people deserve credit. All right, let's see where we are. The next, so I think that actually is Carrie Sipp is so we wanted to introduce each of the people as we go forward, and what they're going to bring to this. Carrie, I think, is going to really provide us with some overview of some of the national work that's going on in this space. Carrie's with Paces Connection. I think people have been somewhat familiar with Paces Connection. It used to be called ACES Connection, now called Paces Connection, to focus on both the positive and adverse childhood experiences. And, we've been trying all the time to make sure that those two things are melded, and not only, the problems, but we also look at the opportunities for, supporting positive parenting and positive environments. So Carrie, why don't you go ahead? Thanks. And thank you so much for being here. And, thanks to everybody for being here, but thank you for, being from out of town and being here. Thanks.
Well, it's so easy to zoom in. Let's see if I can share my screen, and I can. And I'm going to employ technology to help me, because I think I have like 5 minutes. So set timer for 5 minutes, and we'll go with that. And can you all see my
5 minutes? Counting down.
There she says, she confirms it. Thank you, Siri.
Wow.
We love you, Siri. So for those of you, I meant to ask how many of you are familiar with Paces Connection, and I should have done that before I did the screen, but I didn't. But I'll just trust Roger or Liz to tell me how many people are raising their hands. We got about half the people who know, or 2/3, or
Oh,
I think you have, people are not familiar. Okay,
Oh, okay.
start with that.
Oh, great. Okay. Wonderful.
There are 2, 3, including Taryn Yates, who used to be, who used to actually do the Idaho Paces Connection for us. So, so there you go.
Well, great. Well, I'll just tell you that Paces Connection is the Library of Congress, the Wikipedia, the Facebook, the repository of all things about, or as many things as we can get in here, about the science of positive and adverse childhood experiences. We've been around for 10 years. This was started by Jane Stevens, who is a brilliant journalist who learned about ACEs, writing stories about Dr. Vincent Folletti, and I'm sure y'all know who he is. And when she found out in 2009 that an ACE score of 6 meant you were probably going to die 20 years prematurely, all the bells went off for her. And she said, I must do something about this. So she left a good job. She legend has it that she mortgaged her home or pulled money out of retirement to start ACES Connection, which this is the blog. This is the central part of Paces Connection, and anybody can post here if you're a member. It's free to join Paces Connection. So this blog changes constantly, but across the tabs on the top, you'll see that there are communities. We have about 440 geographic communities, and Roger and Liz know about that because there is an Idaho community. The blog is there. There's a massive resources section, and I'll show you a little bit more about that in a minute. Our calendar tells you about events going on literally all over the world that are related to Paces science. Ask the community. If you've got a question you want to know the answer to about Paces science, and you're a member of Paces Connection, you can log on and you can go right here to ask the community and put yourself a question in. You just click on the post, and you can post either a blog post or an ask the community, or you can calendar events of your own, and or upload a resource. So there are lots of ways you can be involved. We have we're coming up on 58,000 members, and the members are people just such as yourselves. There are people with lived experiences. We have a burgeoning pediatricians community, a nurses community, a community for parents, and I'm going to share that with you in just a minute. And then there's a part in here about us. So if you want to know how we came to be and how to join a community or whatever, that's how you do it. If you go to pacesconnection.com, and I'll put some links in the chat when I get finished talking, there'll be a place where you can, and actually, if you want me to send you an invitation, it's faster that way. So if you'll put your email address in the chat, I'll email you a direct invitation. And then that way you don't have to go through as rigorous an approval process, because we do approve people to be members, because we want this to be a safe place for people to share. We do a lot of webinars. When the pandemic started in March of 2021, it's already 5 minutes. Okay, just I'll say, give me 2 more minutes, Siri, thanks.
Sure thing.
Okay, we started doing tons of webinars. So we have a YouTube channel that's full of webinars on everything from diversity, equity, inclusion to historical trauma in America series that we've done. But I'm going to go through just so you know what all's coming to you. I've put together PACE's resources for medical providers and parents. And so I'm going to link this to you. It's got links to handouts that you can give. I'm going to also put in the link to our Parenting with PACE's website. And this is a fabulous resource because it has resources of its own. And the blog changes on this one to be it's stories that are very important to parents, most important to parents. There are 1,833 members in this group of parents, people with lived experience, people supporting parents, all wanting to make sure that we are giving our children the very best opportunities in their lives, because we know parenting with PACEs is tough. I parented with 8 ACEs, and it was a challenge. So PACEs in pediatrics, this is another sub community. We have, as I said, 440 geographic communities and about 40 interest-based communities, and one of them is for pediatricians, and there are 567 members of that community, and it has its own set of resources for pediatricians, and invite you to check that one out too. And once you join PACES Connection, you can join any one of these communities. If you are a teacher or a researcher in trauma-informed care, there is even a national collaboration for trauma-informed healthcare educators and researchers. And so it has its own set of stories as well. And these people meet, which is very cool. They have Zoom meetings to discuss trauma-informed healthcare education and research. And then finally, there's the PACES and nursing site. Sometimes we clone the same stories to different sites, but because this was a donor profile about a family practice physician who's very involved with us, I cloned it to all of those healthcare related sites because I thought they would be interested in it. But just tons of resources, anti-racism resources. And if you are in a community that would like to start a cross-sector PACES Connection group, you get one of these pages free to have a home place for your group. Then, as I said, we also have this vast LibGuides resource center where you can click on any of these and see the surveys, the resilience surveys, PACES Science 101. There's a wonderful presentation on PACES Science that Jane Stevens, our publisher and founder, put together. Here are all these wonderful handouts that you can get to, and all of this is free. We were funded at first by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the California Endowment, and now there are many different healthcare organizations that provide some grants to us, and some donors as well. So those are kind of the high points of what is on there. I can go back and answer some questions for you. I think I've probably eaten up the time, but I'll put the resources in the chat, and the people who want to join, I'll invite you. Again, it's free, and we appreciate all that you guys are doing. Thank you. Right back at you.
Thank you, Carrie. I know everybody's going to have too short a time, and hopefully you'll get a big picture, but everybody is going to probably feel like they don't have enough time to explain these important things that they're doing. I did want to point out, Dr. Patterson says, if people didn't see it in the chat, he says, this is where I gained most of my initial knowledge. So valuable. And I know that, he's been a practitioner of this activity for a few years. He's really picked up. All right, that's my cue that I'm supposed to move on. First person up is Taryn Yates. Taryn is the administrator for the Maternal, Infant, and Early Childhood Home Visiting Program, and so she's going to talk about home visitation. How many people are familiar with home visitation as a practice, or as a something, as a practice, I guess?
Let me see. I see a couple of. Okay.
And
All right. I will be fast. So, as Roger already introduced me, and he mentioned earlier, before I was over here, I was the grant manager for the Children's Trust Fund. So I came to this position already having a good deal of background. And yes, I was the one that helped set up the Idaho PACES connection page. All right, if you want to go on. I'm very aware we don't have a lot of time. So home visiting. So the thing that we like to say about home visiting over and over is that it's free and voluntary service that helps parents and caregivers raise children that are physically, socially, and emotionally healthy and ready to learn. So the parameters of the home visiting itself has to do with the model, which we will talk about in a second. But the common things across models is that it's free, it's voluntary, and someone goes into your home, or you actually can pick a different location, because sometimes we have families that are housing insecure and they choose to meet at parks, stuff like that. So it's for everyone. Next slide. All right, so this is a very small picture of like how exactly does home visiting help children thrive? And we all know parents exist not in a bubble, but they exist inside the context of a community that also helps inform the parent and give them resources and services. And there's multi-generations and all of that. We're focusing on the parent because the program focuses on that parent-child relationship. So parents bring to the table, they bring to the table time, money, energy, skills, knowledge, resources. But that's like ideally, and we all know that parents have varying levels of all of these things. You can have young parents that don't really have the knowledge. If you're like me and you're an old parent, you don't have the energy. There's a lot of these things and parents put that out in the form of basic needs, quality time, skill transference, positive parenting interaction, and the ability to draw down resources when they need to. And ideally, you get all these positive child outcomes, secure attachment styles, positive self-esteem, early literacy, social and emotional competence, all that good stuff that we're all familiar with, and you have a thriving child. Next slide. But at the crux, we know that all parents don't have all those things, and they don't have all that support. So how does home visiting help? So what does home visiting look like? Parents are paired with a designated home visitor. This is usually a nurse, social worker, or other childhood professional, depending on the model. They get to know each other over time and tailor services to their needs. There's a lot of screenings involved. So home visiting really can help with like early identification and help them pull down resources. They also increase those parenting skills and provide education, skill building to support the well-being of those young children. Sorry, I kept having, so who's it for? Pregnant women, some models, so pregnant women, and other models go all the way up to 5. We'll kind of talk about the models in Idaho. It usually happens in a home, as I mentioned, or another location of the family's choosing. And how often? It's usually 1 to 2 visits per month. Oftentimes when a family first starts, they'll have more visits because that's when you're doing a lot of the intake and relationship building. Next slide. What can it do for parents? Increase their knowledge. It's all those wonderful protective factors we know about. Increasing parenting knowledge and skills, improve the children's health because there's health screenings, those early screenings. It increases child readiness for school. It increases access to resources and helps strengthen those relationships. Next slide. I'm just breezing through. I got my eye on the clock. All right, so to get a little bit more specific of what we have available in Idaho, because that's really what I wanted to get into the brains of our pediatricians and physicians. We have 2 models. I think you're all from the Treasure Valley. Is that right, Roger?
Yeah, except for Dr. Davis.
Where's Dr. Davis from?
Magic Valley.
Magic Valley, okay. So in the Magic Valley, we have a parents as teacher program. And in the Treasure Valley, we have both nurse family partnership and parents as teachers. Whether if you're in Caldwell, we have both programs through Region 3 Health District. And if you're in the Boise area, we have both programs through Central District Health. So they're a little different. Nurse family partnership focuses on women who are pregnant around 28 weeks pregnant. You have to enroll before then. All the way up to 2 years old. It only serves first-time moms. The primary goals are family economic self-sufficiency, increased pregnancy outcomes. So we want to see things like healthy birth weight babies and healthy child develop, really focusing on that prenatal and postnatal care and that initial relationship development between mama and baby, or the primary caregiver and baby. So if you're thinking in your head, well, that's a pretty narrow, you got to get in there before 28 weeks. What if you missed that? Fortunately, in the Treasure Valley, we have both models. So if a woman is 40 weeks when she gets referred, she can be referred over to the Parents as Teacher program, which serves women from birth all the way to age 5. So on the nurse family partnership, the home visitor is a nurse. Over on the Parents as Teacher side, they usually have a degree in early childhood or and have done all of our home visitors really have a lot of training in the early childhood field. They know a lot about attachment and all of those things. The thing that's interesting about Parents as Teachers is there's a kind of a social connections aspect where they have this monthly group connection meeting where they get to meet with their peers and usually over food. And it's just a really positive bonding experience that has, we hear really good things about. Okay, the primary goals there, increasing parenting knowledge and positive parenting practices, early detection of development delays, preventing child maltreatment, and increasing school readiness. Next one. I feel like I'm getting low on my time. So in Idaho stats, just statewide, we're available in 27 counties out of the 44. In the fiscal year 2021, we served over 5,000 home visits. I think in this year, we just reported to HRSA that we had 612 children, which has been quite a bit higher than it had in the past, because thank you, COVID money. Just some outcome data if you're interested for those of you who like that sort of thing. I'll let you kind of look it over. 92% of children were screened for developmental delays, so we have a good relationship with the infant toddler program. One of our outcomes is safer sleep, so it's something we really encourage. Breastfeeding, safe sleep, smoking cessation. There's 19 performance measures that the McVie family or the McVie program measures, which I won't go over them all because that would take forever. I think I'm out of time, but you are welcome to reach out to me at any time. This is the service map. If it has a color on it, then we serve that area.
So Liz sent out earlier a sheet with all the resources on it and has connections. It has individual people who you can contact, which are on this sheet here on
Yes.
this slide. But you have that also in the materials that we sent out earlier today, so you can reach out to, if this seems like something that would work for any of the parents of any of your pediatric patients.
Yep.
You have the information to call.
There you go. Use any of that contact, or feel free to contact me directly and I will help connect you.
Terrific. Thank you, Taryn. Sorry that is so short.
No worries.
Tom, do you have, you wanted to ask a question or?
Yeah, Taryn, do any of the home visitors have any expertise in autism?
No, it is an area of professional development that we like to encourage. I don't know that we have a specific, expert, but we actually are encouraging people to get their infant and early childhood mental health endorsement. And I think that's one of the competencies. So they do kind of professional development around it. So if you ever had any ideas about a professional development opportunity for my home visitors, I would love that. I think it's something we could, it's going to be an ongoing learning process.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like because Taryn came out of this work, too, she's really, trying to integrate that into the home visitors education, which is really super. All right, next on the list. And again, we've provided these resources on paper so that you can follow up on it, and we can talk about whether you need any more in any of these areas. But again, think of this as the broad overview of it. So next is Head Start and Early Head Start. And I think that is Megan. I don't know Megan, so so you can introduce yourself. Thank you.
Sure.
I'll introduce Megan is with the Friends of Children and Families, the Head Start and Early Head Start program that serves Ada and Elmore counties. And their program is one of 13 programs that serve primarily low income families across Idaho. And we're really happy to have Megan here today to dive in a little bit on what Head Start and Early Head Start offers that can be so good and strengthen families.
Yeah, thank you. So my role with Friends of Children and Families, the nonprofit that runs Head Start and Early Head Start in Ada and Elmore counties, I oversee the family services piece. So every family that is enrolled in our program is going to receive family services as well as an educational preschool, or, we do serve 0 to 3-year-olds in our Early Head Start program. Let me go ahead and just I'll just share our website so you guys can kind of have a visual, and I do want to share an additional slide here. So, but I'm mainly just going to talk about what it is that we do with family services. So let me actually go to our enrollment. When a parent comes to our program to enroll and they, you guys can see this. Are you guys seeing our website?
Yep.
Okay. And they are qualifying for our program, but especially if a family was to come in that has had ACEs in their past, part of our screening selection is going to look at that. They're actually going to get into our program potentially quicker, faster, because of some of these the experiences they've gone through, and that we look at things like just past trauma, domestic violence, all these different types of factors will help a family get into either Head Start, which is our preschool early education program for 3 to 5-year-olds, or our Early Head Start, which is 0 to 3, and it's a home visiting program. Actually, it's very similar to what Taryn just shared about, specifically the Parents as Teachers program. So every single family that comes into our program, they are going to receive services for the whole family. So we have, whether it's a home visitor or then in our Head Start program, we have family advocates, or kind of like case managers. One of the first things they're going to do is complete a strengths and needs assessment with each family. That's going to look at 7 different family outcomes. You can see these here in the blue column, and then 15 different specific areas of need. And those areas of need are going to be everything from things like food, clothing, basic necessities, well-being, to things like literacy, maybe the parents' education. And then our program during that year that we spend with them, we're going to follow up with each of those areas of need with very specific resources in the community. And actually, we utilize a lot of the different resources that are represented here today. Find Help Idaho, 211. We have a lot of different community partnerships. So for example, for a family that comes to us that is in need of clothing, we can get vouchers for free clothing in the community. We have a car mechanic that donates time for families that may need those services. So that gives you just a brief example of the ways that we're able to kind of individualize for families. That's a really important piece. From there, and this slide just kind of shows the different centers we have, and we have 6 different centers within the community. But from there, our family advocates also, after completing this assessment and then following up with resources, every family has the opportunity to participate in a goal setting partnership as well, if they would like to. So that family advocate is going to help the family identify goals for them, a specific goal, and kind of SMART goals type of manner. And then they're going to follow up with encouragement and resources on that specific goal. So trying to get a family kind of further along their journey. What are they hoping to get out of this year? And how can we help them to become more stable in their life and feel successful? And we really help families try to recognize the strengths they already have. Some of the other things that we offer during the course of the year, we do offer parenting classes to any interested parents. Those are Love and Logic parenting classes taught by a trained professional who's been doing this for 40+ years. We offer opportunities for families to connect together. There's a lot of opportunities for, again, similar to like that Parents as Teacher program with the socializations. We offer family fun nights. We offer specific opportunities for dads to come and come into the classroom and come and connect with other dads as part of our program. And then leadership opportunities. We really would love parents, if they're interested in that, if they're at a place in their life where they would like to be more involved in our program or in their child's education. There's kind of different levels of leadership that they can get involved in with committees, with volunteering, and then really with kind of the oversight of our program. And that's been really meaningful. One parent last year shared, she had a lot of mental health concerns kind of coming into the year, was able to get involved, plugged into some of these leadership opportunities, and that really made a big difference for her. So that's kind of one brief story. The other thing that I wanted to share was, again, just that we're also starting to do kind of a mental health screening as well. That's new this year. So along with those, our strengths and needs assessment, a specific mental health screener, we're using the PHQ really to help identify if parents would like to share with us any concerns on mental health, and again, supporting with resources and referrals. We do provide, again, through some of our partnerships, we're able to provide referrals for like counseling for both children, for parents, and as well as referrals to school districts to start getting services there, referrals to different behavioral services like CBRS, all of those types of things. But again, it really starts with building that relationship and trying to really provide individualized support for each family based on where they're identifying themselves as being at, rather than just maybe sending home things across the board. Here's some great, it's that very individualized angle that we take, which I think is really powerful. We again are in Ada and Elmore County, so we're serving about 385 children in our Head Start program and 76 in our early Head Start program. But again, like Liz said, we're just one of 13 programs within Idaho that are offering Head Start and early Head Start services, and of course Head Start and early Head Start in all 50 states as well. So that is kind of what I wanted to share though about the family service. Thanks, Liz. Any questions you guys have about that? We always welcome referrals.
Nice
and that
work.
website, I'll put our website in the chat as well, because that's the place where you can go to send families to refer them.
And again, it's on, and that's also on that resource sheet that we sent out earlier today.
That's right. Yeah.
Thanks, Megan. Awesome.
There's just so many opportunities within Head Start and early Head Start. It's probably, we wish it could serve more and more people. I think is really the question with a lot of things. But the whole 2-generation focus and the focus around engaging with parents, is such an important part of really serving parents and families. Okay, next is, I'm going to introduce Carrie Wardle and Daniel the Tiger there in the there. Carrie's with Idaho Public Television, and that may seem like an odd resource, but they have really been doing a lot of work in this space, providing both opportunities, mostly at the point for teachers and counselors and social workers. But there's a lot of materials on the website. I've asked Carrie actually though to talk about one specific thing that they're offering, which is called Bright by Tech. I guess if you can squeeze in more, you squeeze in a little more on those materials that are also available, but primarily the Bright by Text. And you all have some of these, well, you can't see them, I guess. Well, yes, you could. Anyway, yeah, these prescription pads that are available to use with patients.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. I'm happy to be here with you guys. So you can go to the next slide. That just has my contact information there if you guys want to reach out to me after this. We partnered, we're going into our third year of partnering with a national company called Bright by Text, who PBS National and PBS Kids also partner with. It is a free texting service for families. And so they text that Idaho family to the code. They can sign up through text, so they don't need internet access to sign up either. And then they get a mixture of messages. It asks for the age of their child or children. And then based on that age, they will get a mixture of messages. Some are national from partners like the National Association for the Education of Young Children. There's PBS, obviously, and PBS Kids. So some of those messages come from national partners. And then the feature that really caught our eye and that really made us want to sign up is that also we can tailor local messages. We can send local messages. We can tailor them by age. We can do zip code or county or a certain city. So if there are, resources like during COVID, there were a lot of like food giveaway places. So we would text that out to families, like you can go pick up food at this location. We can also do a statewide message. So we have a lot of flexibility for how we can tailor that message. And then parents, they receive it through text right to their phone. It does have to, our requirement is that it does have to be linked to some sort of website. Most people have internet access at least on their phone. They may not have a computer or laptop, but they do on their phone. And so we have really enjoyed using this service over the last few years. So there's a couple of things that we can offer you. One is, obviously, you can have your parents sign up to receive these messages. It's things like activities they can do with their kids. Sometimes there's developmental milestones that that your child reaches. And then, like I said, resources locally as well. And Roger showed you guys those prescription pads. Those are fun for doctors' offices, but we also have bookmarks. Oh, and by the way, all of the messages can be translated into Spanish as well. So, and the website where we enter that information will do that automatically. And then there are humans double checking that to make sure that it's a correct translation, because sometimes that's not always accurate on a computer. And so we have other handouts that I'm happy to share with you. So if you got those prescription pads from Roger or somebody and you run out and you want more, you're welcome to shoot me an email and say, can we have more of those? The other thing that we love and really would like to beef up is we can partner with organizations throughout the state that would like to send out messages to their parents. And so if you have messages you want to send out, we have a form you can fill out where you submit all the information to us. And then on the back end, we kind of manage that back end of Bright by Text, where we go in and put it in and send it out, but it's your message. And we would love to partner. We don't have a ton of them right now. United Way has been partnering with us. We've got a few, but we would love to beef that up as well. So if you're an organization that wants to get messages out to parents, and it really is targeted to, I should have said this in the beginning, from birth to age 8. So that's the kind of age ranges where we target the kids are targeted with the messages. So if you're interested in either of those things, either how do I get my parents to sign up, obviously they can just text this number. Also on our website, if you go to idahoptv.org/brightbytext, there is access to some resources there. So like I said, I have handouts I can give you. And then there's also information to contact for signing up if you'd like to be a partner and have us send out your messages. And so this is we just are renewing again for 2023. We feel like it's a pretty valuable service. I'm hopeful that we'll continue to increase participants and get some partners as well. So if that's something that interests you, you're welcome to shoot me an email. I'll put my email again in the chat, and let me know how we can help. But I feel like it's a really great service, and the messages that I've gotten have been really very very timely and helpful. So I'm happy to talk to anybody further about that if you'd like.
We think, we were thinking that this, for some people, it's a lighter touch kind of way of reaching out to people. It gives tips. Liz and I know both signed up for, faking our children since ours are grown. But I have so my 4-year-old now just got a message yesterday. You can use numbers in everyday life with your child, count people, animals, books, or objects. You're helping your child learn math. The one before that was about food access. So, there's a lot of like really good tips, just to kind of help, people sort of, deal with the day-to-day, with these, again, like I say, sort of a lighter touch than some of the other things where there might be an individual involved. But I found it really interesting to just have it on my phone, and I get these little, interesting little ideas. Not that they're that useful, but right now with my 19-year-olds. But okay. Next is so the next two speakers are going to focus around the broader resource nets that are out there, so that so that you can access if you have a particular if you have a particular need, these services are then geared towards that. So first is Jen Haddad. Jen manages the 211 and service integration, which she'll talk a little bit about, programs for the Department of Health and Welfare. She also sits on the Children's Trust Fund board, so I'm very happy to have her in that role as well. And I know she's got to get going, so I'm going to just throw her out there to get started. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks, Roger. And I appreciate the opportunity to share some information with all of you. Roger, are you able to put the PowerPoint up?
Liz is going to do that in a second.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So I'm going to start with 211, telling you all what 211 is. It is our toll-free statewide information and referral service on health and human services resources. Calls are free, they're confidential, they're anonymous, and they are available to anyone. We have specific criteria that needs to be met for resources to be listed within our database, and they need to be either free, low cost, or a sliding scale. We have a call center that operates Monday through Friday from 8 to 6, and our resources can also be accessed online 24/7. And then we also have emergency and crisis referral services that are available 24/7 as well. Okay, next slide, please. Thanks. 211 also serves as a live front door for information and referrals for the Department of Health and Welfare. Our database has over 10,800 resources, and common examples of referrals include public benefits, SNAP, Medicaid, rent assistance, food pantries, utility assistance, and low-cost healthcare providers. So for childcare, we are also the go-to for information and resources both for parents as well as for childcare providers. So this includes information for financial assistance and eligibility requirements, finding providers, becoming a provider, licensing, professional development, and enhancing practices for providers. Next slide, please. Thanks. 211 also houses our Family and Community Services Library. Our materials are free to access, so you can go online and browse through all of our materials and check them out. Once they're checked out, they'll be mailed directly to your door and they'll come at no charge. And in addition to the materials that you check out, a postage paid envelope will also be provided so that the materials can be returned at no cost to you. So we've recently had the opportunity to update a lot of our library resources, including enhancements and supports for kinship caregivers, children, and youth, as well as for professionals that work alongside families. And when I'm referring to kinship caregivers, I'm referring to relatives or someone with an emotionally significant relationship to a child who's caring for them when their parents are unable to. We also have a clearinghouse of information. We maintain all kinds of information pamphlets, brochures, and information that's available to the public. So we provide these to callers as well as to agencies that are requesting specific information. We bring them to outreach events. Next slide, please. When we're fully staffed, we have 7 agents that take calls daily. In addition, we also just recently hired 2 part-time staff as well. We assist callers in all languages. We utilize the language line. And for a little data, last state fiscal year, we received 89,621 calls and we provided 104,292 referrals. And our website can be accessed online. I was hoping to just hop on there just momentarily. I know that time is of the essence, but if whoever is driving the PowerPoint is able to just hop on to the website down at the bottom of the, yep, perfect, thank you. Wanted to have the opportunity to show you all real quickly.
Oh, is it not going? Do you need to share a different screen?
What are you seeing?
Just that we're still seeing the PowerPoint, or yeah, seeing the slide.
Better?
Oh, there we go. Thank you. And Liz, if you could go up to the top right, there should be, yep, select language. So I just wanted to note right offhand that our website can be translated into any language. Thank you. Yep, you can just select the little arrow. Right now we're partnering with the Division of Behavioral Health on a substance use disorder campaign. But if you just scroll down a little bit, and this is our homepage, go down a little bit more, we've got the overarching categories. We tried to make things as user-friendly as possible. So we've got some primary categories of community supports, assistance, and COVID resources, childcare, kinship and caregiving, health, behavioral health, and substance use disorder, specific populations, and our library. And in addition to that, you can just go directly straight to our search engine and search any type of resource directly. Liz, if you don't mind scrolling up just a little bit more. Oh, yep, right there. You just go to visit our online database, just slightly below. Yep, right there. Thank you. So right here, we've got categories. If you don't mind, just, yeah, scrolling down a little bit. You're doing a great job driving. Thank you. We've got all of these categories. And then if you also just want to put in a topic, a category directly that you're looking for, you can just go to the click here for advanced search button and just type in what you're looking for and your zip code. So thanks, Liz. I appreciate that. And then we can go back to the PowerPoint. Thank you. Just wanted to chance to show you all real quickly. Okay, next I'm going to talk about our resource and service navigation program. Navigation is the preventative arm for child welfare, and our services focus on early intervention and prevention strategies. And the heart of what we do is really around providing supports and services for families so that children can continue to be cared for in their own homes or in the homes of relatives. With Navigation, it's a voluntary program, and next slide, please. Thank you. We provide short-term case management, and we serve individuals, families, and children who may benefit from one-on-one assistance in developing a customized service plan. And the service plans that we co-develop with our clients are like a roadmap to supporting their goals around health, safety, stability, self-sufficiency, and well-being. They really focus on a combination of utilizing family strengths and community supports. And our navigators also work really closely with other agencies in the department, as well as throughout local communities that our families live in to help stabilize and support them. Next slide, please. Our program has the ability to access a couple different types of funding that I'm going to tell you about, and this is when all eligibility criteria is met. We have emergency assistance funding, and it's tied to the health, safety, and well-being of a child. And the intent with emergency assistance is to intervene early with families in the hopes to stabilize a crisis and, again, to promote the health, safety, and well-being of a child, including the long-term stability and self-sufficiency of a family. So not only do we want to have the opportunity to come in and help stabilize the family, but we also want to help with that long-term sustainability. Ultimately, the funding is tied to help prevent the out-of-home placement of a child. We see so many situations where families are hardworking and they experience a hardship or a circumstance that puts them in a situation of not being able to pay their rent, and they're facing eviction. And as we know, things from that point often just spiral downward. So we may be able to come in and provide a short-term intervention to help resolve the emergency, stabilize the family, and provide the ability for the children to continue to be safe, stable, and healthy in their own homes. So some examples of what we can, how we can provide emergency assistance are through rent, deposit, and utilities. There are different factors that we look at for eligibility for our funding, and in the interest of time, I won't get into those. Next slide, please. We also have the ability to access career enhancement funding, and this is tied to obtaining or maintaining employment or to a work-related need. And the heart of this funding is to help families with dependent children. And career enhancement is specific to assisting with a non-recurrent, short-term, specific crisis situation or an episode of need. So we often see the need for car repairs. Transportation, as we know, is such a critical element in being able to get to work and to maintain employment. Other examples that we may be able to assist with include things like fees for licenses, training, uniforms, and again, in the interest of time, I won't get into requirements for this, but happy to share more information if anyone would like that. Next slide, please. And the ability to support kinship caregivers in their role is really critical. We know that the majority of kinship caregivers are not receiving supports and resources that they are eligible for. Our funding can be accessed by relative caregivers when a child lives with them and they're responsible for their care, as long as all of the eligibility criteria is met. We know that kinship caregivers have many unique needs. Often the caregivers are suddenly put in a position of raising a child or children at a point in their life when they are getting ready to retire or they've already raised their own children. So they have some really critical and unique needs that we can help support. Next slide, please. I just wanted to talk a little bit about referrals for our navigation program. The primary source of referrals we get are directly through 211. So anyone can call 211 and ask for referral for navigation. We also have referral forms that we have with our partnering organizations, and people can also call and refer themselves. So, the last slide just has my contact information. I'm happy to put my email in the chat. I know we're limited on time, but thanks so much for the opportunity to share.
Thanks, Jen. I mean, that was a lot. That was a lot. Again, all this information's on those sheets. We can talk about it more extensively in that forum. But hopefully these are useful, to give you a perspective of some of the things that are out there that could be useful to the families you serve as for those for your pediatric patient. So last but not least, Ann Wolverton. Ann is leading efforts around what was called Aunt Bertha, now called findhelpidaho.org, which is another referral effort. It's organized differently and very useful resource. So Ann, thanks for being part of this. And
yeah, absolutely, Roger. Thank you for the opportunity and also for putting me right after Jen, because I feel like our two initiatives go hand in hand. So you heard from Jen about 211, which is the best resource if someone is looking to speak to someone in real time, right? Or if someone is a navigator and they're really wanting to get into those programs using the 211 database. But Find Help Idaho was created to really help with self-navigation. So you should all be seeing my screen now. There's our logo. And as Roger mentioned, it used to be called Aunt Bertha. Then it went to findhelp.org. Findhelpidaho.org, though, is the right website for you to use in our state because it's going to pull in more resources than any other doorway into the system. So we're trying to make it easier, right, for people to directly connect to programs. So similar to 211, everything's zip code based. One of the advantages of Find Help Idaho is that it does run on a national platform. So if you are working with someone and they live on the border of Idaho and Oregon, Idaho and Washington, it's going to pull in resources from a 150-mile radius to help that person find the programs that can assist them. It also can be translated into more than 100 languages and can be filtered down to get you the results you need. A couple of other benefits, free and open network, so free for organizations to be listed on the site. There's also a lot of great back-end tools for community-based organizations, so they can look at data analytics for their programs, track inbound referrals, and actually use a closed-loop referral process to make sure the clients they're working with get help. Private and secure, so HIPAA and FERPA compliant, high trust certified, and then relevant, easy, and up to date. So there's the ability for community-based organizations to take control of their own listings in the site to make sure things stay up to date in real time. But if they don't have the capacity to do that, the Find Help data curation team actually follows up with every single program on the site on a 6-month rolling basis to make sure that it's up to date. So I'm actually going to do a new share. I love to show the site live because it's an online tool. So you should be seeing Find Help Idaho. Again, just like 211, we're using Google Translate to translate it into more than 100 languages. Once you select a language, the selection stays with you. So as you navigate page to page, it's going to stay in that language. If you choose to share a resource, it's going to share it out in that language by text, email, or print. I'll go ahead and enter a Boise zip code because I heard we're mostly from the Treasure Valley on the call today. So you're going to see it pulls in more than 2,000 programs in the Boise area. And again, that includes the really local programs right down the street. It includes statewide programs, regional programs, national programs, anything that serves people in Idaho. From there, because we wanted it to be really easy for self-navigation, we put things into these buckets. So food, housing, transit, health, the things that people are looking for the most. And then from there, each one gets a subcategory. So you're taking those 2,000 results and getting really specific about what someone's looking for to try to connect them to the programs that can help them. You can also type in keywords up here. So just like a Google search, you can type in a basic keyword and it's going to pull in any relevant results. From there, you can filter down those results using personal filters like age, and if there's a certain disability you're working with, program filters, everything's free or reduced cost in the system, but if you need it to be completely free, that's an option. And then income eligibility. So sometimes for those larger statewide and national programs, people wonder if they even qualify. There's also ways to interact directly with the programs from the site. So some have it linked to their application on their webpage. Others have a way to log a direct referral. So you'll see I can refer for myself or someone else and tell them about the person I'm helping. When you send a referral through Find Help Idaho, the program is actually going to reach out to your client. So when they have time, they're going to reach out. We do have everyone kind of agreeing that it will be within 2 business days, just to let people know they've received the referral and are able to get them the help they need. There's also the ability to share programs with people, again, through email or text. These are great features because they're never going to share your personal email or your cell phone number with someone. It's just providing your name and then that person's information. Everything gets sent through Find Help Idaho. So that's a really basic kind of tutorial of how everything works in the site. But I encourage you, I'm going to just pop my screen back up here. There's a QR code on your screen. I know all the information is also being sent out, but I do offer a larger Find Help Idaho 101 training virtually on a monthly basis. So if you or someone on your team wants to dive in deeper to this work, I would really encourage you to attend that.
Thanks, Anne. Yeah, this is a new resource, you know, and really exciting. Again, a kind of a good companion to the 211 site. You know, both I think are really useful. And I think we are finding that a lot of people want to do self-help, maybe don't want to even engage with people, so or at least in the front end. Dr. Omer asks, let's see, are mental health resources in the health bucket?
Yes, mental health resources do exist in the health bucket. And we did partner earlier this year with the Idaho State Department of Education to make those resources more robust. So it now includes all resources that were in the Optum network. So all resources that accept Medicaid and Medicare that are within mental health are also now listed on the site.
And Tom said there is a mental health tab.
And the other thing, just to let you know, this does work great on a phone. So if you're on your phone and you go to the browser and type in Find Help Idaho, it's been developed to work well that way as well. So I know a lot of times clients have a phone and they maybe don't have access to a home computer.
So it would be fine if you have questions about any of these, you know, any of the programs where there's, I guess, where there's still people here, although we probably can answer many of the questions where there's not people here. But I know that Carrie's still here and Megan's still here, and Anne. Let's see, I think that's our resource folk who are still here. I mean, for the docs, I mean, was this the kind of thing you were, you know, wanting to get exposure to or some awareness of? Do you think it's I mean, has it given you some perspective of some of the things that you might be able to use with the, you know, with the parents of the patients you serve?
Yeah, I think this will be really helpful. I want to kind of go in so that I can guide them, not just with the general site, but where to go once they get in there. But this has been really good.
Great.
I think one of the great things, and this is corroborated in the original feedback from the focus groups, is oftentimes they just want parenting classes. You know, and many of the resources here can guide us to that. And so I think it's really a great compendium of resources for us to hand out. And then the one that didn't get presented is the asking is a powerful form of doing. I'm out.
I thought Dr. Gillespie had given us that listed as well as you many times. Susan, were you going to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like I've been drinking from a water hose, but that's okay. That's awesome. But this is a specific question just to throw out since you all are here. I have a mom who can't get to her appointments. She's got some mental health issues. She is trying really hard. And it's a car issue. The car breaks down. And it's not just to see me. I told her I'm the least important. You got to go to your therapies for your child that has a genetic condition. Which would be like 211, it says it's a short term, and then somebody else, I've been taking notes, had said, oh, it was Head Start and Early Head Start. A car mechanic donates. What's the best way to figure that sort of thing out specifically? Is there
Susan, I have a resource I could send you, but I wonder if you
awesome.
could find it on 211 or findhelpidaho.org possibly as well. But yeah, there's a mechanic if you're in Boise area, Garden City, that does have a referral program. So anyone could refer to this program, and they, take families in as needed. So I'll send you. Do you want to put your contact information?
Yeah, I'll put that.
But I bet you could go and do searches in 211 and in Find Help Idaho to find those specific needs.
And that would cover Canyon County too.
They're in Canyon County. And someone asked me about Head Start in Canyon County, and it's YCAP. So if anyone is in Nampa, it's YCAP, and it's a very similar program, Head Start and Early Head Start. But for Find Help Idaho and 211, they also have resources in Nampa.
Anybody else want to answer or augment the answer to Dr. Bradford's question?
Yeah, I think that Medicaid transportation can help out. I know we've done referrals, and I think the community health worker referral within our office, Susan, can help out with that.
Okay, I'll give that another try.
But yeah, if it's car repairs, then, both, 211 is a, sort of crisis management kind of end of, assistance in that area. Or if it's transportation, then the Medicaid transportation, I think, is a good source.
Dr. Davis, great to see you, Dr. Davis. You're looking awesome. He's been taking a few vacations. Did you want to add something to our conversation, Dr. Davis? He's been
rested.
Yeah, I could jokingly say that Magic Valley knows about all these resources, but clearly not, and clearly some of them are Treasure Valley based, but some of them are like the 211 is of special interest. Anything that could be helpful in the Magic Valley is of special interest.
And most of these programs are statewide. I mean, we, they're more robust in certain areas than others, and that's definitely the case. I mean, you know that better than most of us on this call, since there's quite a difference between Shoshone and Twin Falls, or certainly Treasure Valley seems to have a lot more resources than most of the other places. But each of these services, I think, that we talked about are available statewide, but I think the services themselves are actually more robust in certain areas.
When I was on the 211 page and I typed in Magic Valley, it just said docdavis.com for all resources.
Good one, Tom.
Any other questions before we let our guests go?
Thank you all so much. You shared so much, and this is recorded, so this can be shared throughout your practices for our cohort, and you can watch it again. And as has already been pointed out, the resources are in that companion piece that I sent earlier, and I'll send it a few more times and put it on the website.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Megan and Carrie. Appreciate y'all.
Thanks for having me.
So the next thing on the list is actually the resources in some resources that you all now have in your possession in the toolboxes, and so we want to just walk you through what's in there. Hopefully too, as we talk about any of these things, if there are more things that you need, or if there's if we're not hitting on the right directions, let us know what would be more helpful. I mean, our point here is, we chose some things that seemed like they fit in what you had, what we had understood you needed, but certainly there's more out there. And, we can't say that every service is available. We still know that, we could say there's a referral to mental health, but it's still going to be a while before someone gets it. And all those issues are kind of, compounded. So we, don't want to be Pollyanna about any of this, but just to let you know that there are a lot more resources, I think, than maybe some of us are aware.
And I think to Roger's point just there about, mental health services, I think that if we can globally teach families to be resilient, we will decrease the burden and the waiting list for, the mental health services. It's not going to happen this year, but, if we can transform our healthcare systems, we'll have way fewer mental health referrals that are needed 10 years from now if we build resilient families. And I think that's my biggest interest in doing this sort of work, is to teach resilience globally. And one of the things that hit me today as I was thinking about this meeting is one of the most powerful things for me in advancing my knowledge in trauma-informed care is practicing with the families that are all together, right? A family that's all put together. They don't have, their ACE score is 0 or 1. Practice teaching them resilience. And, if you're practicing with them, then you're more prepared when you're dealing with a family that has an ACE score of 4. And so I'm not really, saying ACE score 0 practice here for, I'm doing it globally. I'm teaching self-care to everybody, teaching resilience to everybody. And the more I've done that, the easier it's gotten. And so when I do have a family with an ACE score, mom has a score of 9, I am better able to help her because I've practiced so many times in non-threatening places where there's not a big ACE score problem and there's not a great need for lots of fancy referrals. And so I think that's one of the most powerful things that in retrospect I can say helped me was globally teaching resilience.
Yeah. Liz, you're on.
Okay, I'm going to do a little whatever commercial break here for a second. Hang on just a second. You can hold it up there, Vanna. That's fine. But I do want to remind everybody, because we didn't have everybody be able to attend the last peer learning session, that it was quite dynamic, and that we had Dr. Gillespie going through a number of different real life scenarios that he had encountered in his practice and asking, what would you do? And some really good back and forth. So that's, I sent you the link. I will remember to send you the link again. I didn't put that up on the webpage because it's not really a public thing, but that was a really good one. And it'll be helpful even if you don't, you can pretend like you're playing.
Let's start our own LL Cool Doc, Lisa Labor.
Right. You have not been taking advantage of asking Dr. Gillespie direct questions. Thank you very much, Dr. Bradford, for your question that came in today, and I forwarded it, or yesterday. So ask Dr. Gillespie some of these questions, and I know that everybody's been mind on a few other things this month, but let's continue. He's there for us, even if he couldn't be here today. He's there for us. So whatever it is, aces ask rj. gmail.com, whatever it is, you guys have it in your emails. Okay, so everybody should have received your resource kits. And in those resource kits, Dr. Davis, did you get yours?
I did, thank you.
Yeah, excellent. So in the resource kits, they're a little bit of a hybrid. There's resources for your staff and your ACEs team. And there's resources also that are directly intended for the parents of your patients. And there's crossover, of course. So let's hold up the prescription pad again, please, the Bright by Text. And so you now have a much better idea of what that Bright by Text is. So those are for you to just give to the parents. I mean, they don't have to have any ACE scores. You don't have to do an ACE screening in order to give them that. It's very helpful. They can enroll numerous children and be getting texts for 6-month-olds and 3-year-olds and whatnot. So those are in there. And obviously, other people on your staff can hand those out. It's not limited to doctors or, you know, PAs. And then there are the 3 books in there: The Deepest Well, Childhood Disrupted, and What Happened to You. And they're all excellent resources. Those are great reading for you and your team. They are certainly books that can be that you can have those and, you know, I mean, I don't care if you loan them out or give them to parents, whatever, buy more, but you know, they're certainly extremely helpful for the parents to read them. They are, or people with adults. That's what I mean. Not all adults are parents or parents of young children, but they still can like those books.
This one is great on audiobook too. You know, we gave it out this way, but the audiobook is.
Don't wiggle it, just hold it steady. There you go. Yeah.
Don't wiggle it. Oh, my Vanna skills are very poor. I'm sorry.
What happened to you? And next session, we will talk about our book group that we held on What Happened to You and how that could, going forward, be a resource. So those 3 books, and those are the resources. What else is in there? Okay, so then we have these binders, and we have everybody should have at least 1 binder in Spanish and a few in English. These are for your waiting room. These are for your exam room. These are for your break room if you want, you know, to make sure that your staff is, you know, familiar with all these resources. And they you know, there's a ton of different resources in there. Hopefully you had a chance to at least leaf through, and each of those resources in Spanish and in English is available in your file folder. So that if the parents, you know, and on the front of it, it says you can ask for a take-home copy of any of those resources or all of them. That's up to you to how you stage that at your practice. We couldn't, you know, we didn't have to micromanage that. You guys figure it out, but the parents can leaf through it. You can have that in the waiting room too. And there's also a QR code on the front of that binder, so the parents can just zap it on their phone, and then they can go straight to the website and where all those resources are. Spanish and English. And then if you, and again, you know, don't feel like you have to use these resources only after you started ACE screening. I mean, put them out there now. I mean, every parent wants to de-stress, and every parent, you know, likes ideas about, you know, raising healthy children and whatnot. And then when you run out of those, oh yeah, I'll let you talk about that in a second. When you run out of those, then you just go to the website, our website, and, you know, download the PDF and print up some more, or, you know, be like a grocery store. You have to keep a little inventory and see which ones are the fast sellers or whatever. And you certainly can have those. You can, you know, you can pull them out of the file yourself and have them and hand them to the parents, you know, because they might not take the time to look, and you might say, hey, I love this resource. Why don't you take this home with you? So let me talk about the one resource, Roger, and then I'm glad that you mentioned that that one. So I'm not going to go through all of them because that would be really boring. But I did want to, oops, not do that one. I had to open up a lot of things to keep everybody happy there on their things. So let's see if I can't share my screen. I wanted to talk about the one we all have a number story, because you do not get the full benefit, because all we did was put 2 pages of it in the in the packet or in the resources. So we all have a number story. And it's fantastic. It's 40 pages long. And there's our table of contents. So Caring for Kids, Building Resilience. It's got some awesome resources. I remember Dr. Bradford said, well, how do we really, provide support for building resilience? So it's got some awesome resources there. And then it goes straight into, just a ton of parenting tips. And just close your eyes for a second there while I zoom through here a little bit. So then you get to the part where it's your child's first chapters. So it goes from children ages 0 to 5, positive parenting, and then let's see, new parents. Sorry, I wanted to look for the part that actually was by age. So infant bonding, ages and stages. So developmental milestones. Zero to 12 months, babies, first year milestones. So these are the things that you are, talking to parents about. But this is a nice way then to give them something to take home or refer them to this resource. Read to your baby, sing to your baby, etc. All right, so this numberstory.org. So you could either, give them the link to this, or you could go to you could print them if you wanted to. We do have the link that goes to this document, this PDF, but we didn't want to make like 10 copies for each office because we didn't know what, what the need was going to be. But we all have a number story by the American Society for the Positive Care of Children.
And it has some cool videos too and stuff like that on there, right? Animated things if you go on the website. So fun, interesting, good, and again, reinforcing, I think, the stuff you're already doing with developmental milestones and etc.
Right. And you want to talk now, Roger, please, about the other?
I just wanted to mention this specifically. I mean, when you said de-stressing, I mean, this is focused a lot on that. It's kind of, it says empowering students, so it's kind of meant for younger kids, but it has a lot of really good exercises. This was created by a couple of counselors for the Idaho Resilience Project. And, it just has a lot of, everything from coloring pages and just, different exercises for, for families to practice together, as far as like things that are de-stressing. Anyway, it's fun. You have that. We have plenty of copies, or we can get plenty of copies if you want more of those too. Not sure how many we provide.
Yeah, we just put a handful in each box, but those are the ones you could, maybe you've already given them all away. We can send you more. Roger has boxes of them. And you can obviously just put them out. You can put them out and you don't have to have a big talk to about it. You can just put them out there. If people take them, they'll make good use of them, I'm sure. So does anybody have any questions or feedback about the resource packets, resource kits?
I mean, do they seem like things you're going to be able to use? I mean, is this a way to get them out to folks? Is that a useful resource?
We'll let them use it and see.
Okay.
And we have Dr. Labors reading one of the books. Excellent.
Yeah, I think this is a great collection of resources that allow us to give the parents something to take home and, kind of explore the ACEs resilience piece that you introduced during the visit. So I think it's a really nice piece that augments asking and listening.
And they're certainly all, you know, as you go into your residency program next, oh, that's maybe starting now, whenever it's starting, then these are all resources too that can be part of a curriculum. All right, thanks, Dr. Bradford. Yeah. All right, so there's that, and we'll get some more feedback on everything as we wrap this up in January. But there we go on the resource kits, and I'm turning it back over to Roger.
And I'm going to kind of turn it over to Tom, but this section, we had encouraged people. I don't know, did people have people been able to watch the film Wrestling Ghosts? Any?
Yep.
What did you think about it?
I thought it was really good in terms of feeling moments of hope and also moments where things just seemed I mean, as they told their story, things seemed really hard. And you know, there were days where it was just hard to keep going. And so I thought it illustrated that well. It, you know, didn't give all the answers, but it just kind of gave a little insight, and then still carried the message of hope with it. So it was interesting. I'm glad that I watched it.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, I really encourage you to watch it. I watched it a couple of times, and you know, it's really powerful. I think, you know, just this you know, the struggle this woman goes through, and then kind of, you know, what looks like helpful things, and the support that she does have, you know, which you know, helps her get through it. It seems like, and things, you know, they don't leave you, you know, with like, oh, everything got perfect now, but they do leave you with the sense that, you know, that things are moving in the right direction. So that's good. But what we thought we might do in this section was just, I don't know, because they raised a whole bunch of things about potential therapies, and so I just, you know, in particular, they talked about EMDR, neurofeedback. They talked about somatic processing, you know, in addition to talk therapy and some things. And so I guess, you know, Tom, I don't know how we were kind of thinking, well, you know, maybe this is a conversation we want to have about, you know, the access to those things, and to what extent you see yourselves using them, or, you know, have found yourselves using them.
Yeah, I think the most powerful resource I've used in that 0 to 8, well, the infant to 8 group, is the PCIT, the parent-child interactional therapy. I know there are many of my patients, moms and dads, who are getting EMDR and other therapy modalities. But again, I think that, you know, acknowledging ACEs and letting people know that oftentimes the person's response to the ACEs is a solution that's not necessarily good for them, and that these resources we have would be a healthier response to the trauma that they had. And so, you know, I think trauma-informed cognitive behavioral therapy is a great tool. I'm struggling with trying to find trauma-informed cognitive behavioral therapists that are available, as you all are. I think the same thing would go for EMDR. PCIT is limited by one group, and the entire Treasure Valley does it, and that's difficult. The PCIT training is an extensive training. So I think that's the difficulty, is people who are overwhelmed, you know, already trying to fit people in, are having a hard time justifying doing additional training. So what I find most commonly, though, is we're not having to get super fancy and use a lot of, you know, different modalities of therapies. You know, people want to be heard. They want to have hope. They want to have someone who listens and cares. And just by asking, we do a huge movement towards being trusted. And when we're trusted, then the patient feels like we care. And I'm amazed at how I can meet a brand new family, and within a very short time, they're trusting me. And it's just because I asked them about their past. And that somehow gives me a degree of credibility that all of my knowledge, my gray hair, my reading glasses does not do. It's pretty powerful. So I think I would go back to know the therapies, know we're in a critical resource scarcity situation, partly because of COVID and the lack of mental health services that were sought out during COVID, and the accumulation of disease and the accumulation of trauma. This goes back to just train everybody on resilience. It takes just a few moments. Train early. That's where I pick on the newborn nursery to train about resilience. In my own parenting, I realized that we always did our self-care out of the eyes of our children. And we gave them the implicit message, you don't do self-care. So it was only my youngest son who saw us do self-care, because of course the olders were more independent and didn't require us as much. And so we started doing self-care. He saw us doing the most amount of self-care, and he's the only one that really adopted it. The others are backing into it. So I think starting early with teaching parents about resilience is going to lead to a 2-generation resilient force that is going to kind of get at that epigenetic, 4 generations of trauma passed on through, methylation sites due to high cortisol and all the science that goes with that. A book that I love that gives a lot of people resources is The Connected Child. And I was really remiss, I realized, in not putting that in the resource kit. But The Connected Child is by Karen Purvis, Karyn Purvis. Karen worked with children who had been brutalized in the way that only, I think, psychopaths could imagine. And she taught those kids how to feel loved and safe again, and she wrote a book about it. And so really neat things. And, as Roger showed the workbook that we have, that is a great tool to teach one of these things, and that's matching. So when the child is doing something like coloring in a book, the parent grabs a crayon and colors as well. And we used to do this with our siblings, Mom, he won't stop copying me. But kids, younger kids in that toddler and school age child age, when you're copying them, they're like, oh, I'm important to that person. That's awesome. I'm going to see what else I can get them to do. And that came right from the book, The Connected Child. So I will stop talking and ask for questions for a moment.
Or share experience,
I'm sorry, Roger, you cut out at the beginning.
Oh, I just said, or to share experiences, other, of your own uses of any of these therapies. Or there were a couple of things in the in the chat. Dr. Bradford said that PCIT is great, but can't get anyone into it. And Dr. Labor said, does anyone besides Monarch do PCIT?
Yeah, Monarch is the only one I know of.
And so there's limited resources.
Yeah, and I think if you're looking at the Monarch people, they are all master's level providers. These are not, quickly trained people. It's a long investment. And so I think that's the hard part about PCIT. I think the idea I have about trauma-informed cognitive behavioral therapy is that, we have the fear center of the brain that takes in all data, and our brains are meant as computers to help us survive. And so our fear center takes in every single data point that comes our way, and it assesses whether it's a threat or not. And when there's a lot of cortisol around, the fear center gets big and selfish and kind of egotistical and doesn't want to give it up to the thinking and feeling part of the brain, which is the way it's supposed to work. Fear center takes it in, sends it to the thinking and feeling center of the brain. The thinking and feeling center of the brain turns off the fear center, and the thinking and feeling center of the brain says, oh, it's just Dr. Patterson in the room. I didn't need to freak out. So, if you think about the kid who's got cortisol pumping out all the time because they live with the grizzly bear, going back to the Nadine Burke Harris, parallel, if you think about that fear center being big, it makes perfect sense that a kid melts down and goes from 0 to 60, right? But the reality is they lived at 40. So it's not all that impressive going from 40 to 60. So just sharing that knowledge of how our brains work in the fear center and the thinking and feeling center helps parents understand, oh yeah, when he freaks out, he's really living at 40 because, well, he's had all these traumas. And I don't want to share a bunch of the traumas I've heard because, they're hard to hear. They're hard to, I don't want to repeat them here. But I think if we think about cognitive behavioral therapy in a trauma-informed way, you take the things that are in the fear center of your brain and you take them to your thinking and feeling center of the brain. So when something comes along that activates that memory of trauma, because again, the body keeps score, that memory is held and taken care of by the thinking and feeling center of the brain, and the fear center of the brain doesn't even get to play with it anymore. And so that's the idea of trauma-informed cognitive behavioral therapy, is moving things from the fear center to the thinking and feeling center so that the thinking and feeling center can think cognitively about, the trauma versus, the fear center taking over, which is going to either send us into fight, flight or freeze. And you've seen that in kids in the clinic. I've seen it. I've had an exam table turned over on me when I was blocking the doorway unwittingly. I had a 10-year-old who had a massive story of trauma. And I didn't even realize I was sitting on my stool, like in the doorway, just our small exam rooms, exam table, parents and child are on the far side. And I am left at the door, right? And he was trying to figure out how he could get out of the room. When he couldn't get out of the room and flee, he just picked up the exam table and tilted it over on me. That's when I found out the bottom drawers go either way and keeps a table from tilting all the way over on you. So what I did in that situation is I gave him an exit. I gave him an exit route, and he calmed right down and left. And everyone else was wanting to call security and the police, and I just said, let's give him a wide berth and let him get out of clinic. And that's what he needed to do. So, he's a kid who suffered a lot of trauma. I don't know how it happened that day, but unwittingly, he admitted one of the traumas to me, and he didn't intend to. I just got him talking, and he admitted a terrible trauma. And then he was like, I can't take that back, so I'm going to fight my way out of this. And he actually told me, my preferred way of doing this is to fight. And, that's one of those things where now he and I have a really pretty solid relationship. And he's gotten some good care, and his mental health things are not as big, and he is still focusing on some of the physical things, but we're working on getting those sorted out too. But it's just, opening the door for kids and parents to share with you past things that have happened to them, and then you can understand how you can help them. And I think the resources are incredible to give them something concrete. I love everybody has a number. It is kind of comprehensive on letting someone know about ACEs and resilience and helping set expectations. And I think so often, in terms of parent trauma with an angry household or whatever, a lot of it comes because of inappropriate expectations. And you all know what I'm talking about. The family, the parents who, think at age 4, the child should be able to have really good cognitive thinking about right and wrong, and be able to make adult level decisions when they're 4. So I think setting those, having that ages and stages portion in that everybody has a number story is, I think, a really great thing for families to help set expectations. And then I also love co-regulation. I tell parents, you may call yourself parent, I call you co-regulator. Because really, we don't make the connection from the fear center of the brain to the thinking and feeling center of the brain until more closer to 25. And every time there's a bonding moment, a trusting moment, a safe, stable, nurturing environment for a child, the parent and the child gain a stair step from the fear center to the thinking and feeling center. And, I think teaching that to parents is so important, to try to make sure that everything's safe, stable, and nurturing, and recognizing that expectations of development can often put pressure on the child that then interferes with a safe, stable, nurturing environment. And then a bonus question, does anyone know when the most child abuse happens? What stage of development?
Less than 1.
0 to 1.
Exactly. It's during potty training.
I think that's the second, not to be argumentative, but I think the 0 to 1 is the crying time, and then the second one is, that's what we say.
I'll have to look at what the recent data shows, but at least a few years ago, it was potty training was one of the most, it was the most common child or stage of neurodevelopment for child abuse to happen. So letting people know what the expectations of potty training are and stuff is important in terms of expectations of development. So I'll stop again. I'm talking a lot. I'm rambling now.
Dr. Davis, did you want to talk at all about the way your integrative approach to some of this? If it's relevant, I think it is. But
I'm really looking at bringing this into family health services in my area, the FQHC that I'm working with. So it's really more about sharing this with other providers. So I'm going to be looking at tools particularly for that.
Great. We are needing, I think, to move to the next final piece of this agenda. Dr. Omer, I think that's a really great piece for our, kind of a good segue into our session, which is, we want to talk about what we want to do in this fourth session. And you're suggesting, resilience building exercises, activities. And I guess we were hoping there might be some thought about doing some more practice related activities during that final session that might be just opportunities to, to hear some ways that we might do, very specific kinds of things or practice, in some ways.
Right. And we will
get this to RJ.
Yeah.
Because he listed all these things and I wrote them down during one session, and then he didn't really go into what they were. Like, I'm not sure what he meant by mirror time. I could 3 or 4 things I could think of. So that was my question I sent him is,
and we looked at that too. When we looked at that this morning, we said, oh yeah, that'll be a great one for that fourth session. So that we could build. So we're kind of like trying to figure out which things should go there. That makes a lot of sense. And we'll get Dr. Gillespie to join us.
And we also have another peer learning session. So our hour of back and forth and the ideas that you generate right now, we can also, we've got that hour as well. And Dr. Davis and Dr. Patterson will be our leads on that one. And that is on Friday, January
6th.
And I'm hoping that you guys can break free for that one. Okay, back to the question of how do you want to spend those last 2 hours on January 13th together? What do you feel is going to make this a complete class?
One of the things we are going to bring in is we have been having a conversation with the Cornerstone Whole Health Organization, which Dr. Davis is on the board of, and which is interested in putting a lot of this material up on a learning platform and helping us to continue this work going forward. So we will have them come in and talk some about what the plan is for that. You guys are the pioneers in this effort, but we want to have some ways to spread it out to a larger group. And so we will talk about that so you can get a handle on that. And we'll, you know, we hope that they'll be able to, you know, help to extend this, you know, into the long-term future, which is what our plan is. So that's one piece we will do.
So am I hearing we answer Dr. Elmer's question in the peer group session?
We're suggesting that
For
just
time.
wise. I mean, you know, you could, I'm sure somebody can answer that question, but we're trying to right now just get ideas for, you know, what you want in that last session. You know, what are we missing? Where are the gaps? What are the things you want to, you know, that you hope you can get out of this that you haven't gotten so far?
I guess I would say, like, what do you need to start either ACE screening or resilience teaching that you haven't gotten so far?
Right.
What would it take? And then we will work to provide that need. And I want to be available to all of you. It turns out you're a small enough cohort that I can be available to you to answer questions.
And you can provide, we're not going to be doing this on Monday, getting this whole agenda together. So you can think about this and get us, you know, email me and we'll integrate these things in. We also are hoping that you are spending some time.
Sorry.
We hope that you're spending some time thinking about planning, like what are the steps that you're going to do when this is over? Are you going to have a training for, you know, more people in your practice? Are you going to set a goal that you're going to start at a certain time and do it a certain number of times? Are you going to, you know, read all the books that you got, or, you know, what's your plan, you know, maybe through 2023 on making this happen? And so we'd like to have some feedback from you in January about what you did, what you are setting as your goals and your process, and maybe do some brainstorming on that in January.
So I would just add, and I know, and I apologize for being late to this session because I was covering the service and I couldn't get out earlier, but I would say, like, if, you know, moving forward from these, like, I feel like I've gotten a lot of new information, but I haven't had a chance to fully debrief that information. So, like, because I'm still digesting it. So, like, and I'm sorry, I don't know what happened in the first hour. I'll watch it. I'll go back and watch this. I always watch the Zoom sessions that I miss. But like, just a chance to debrief. Like, I mean, I watched the Wrestling Ghosts, but a part of me is like, I don't know what I saw fully, you know, like it was, and I would like to just have a little bit more context. It was beautiful. It was moving. Like, I couldn't watch it all in one session. I mean, my husband watched it with me, you know, I cried, like all this, you know, it was intense, but I feel like, I'm not like how, so, and I've been starting, like, one of the books, I started reading it. You know, I've gone through the parent handbooks, like, so, and I've, you know, been watching any meetings that I've missed and tried to come to these, but it's just, there's a lot of information, and then trying to put that in the context of just still, even before I can apply this, and sorry, just apply this to my practice, I feel like I need to digest this information and have a better context and understanding of that information before I could start bringing this out. I mean, in some small ways, I've been able to do it in some of my well child visits and just small things, connecting with people. I appreciate that. But I feel like I'm still digesting the information, that then that next step to then actually now try to apply it into a clinical setting, I feel very far from doing that. I think, I know we talked about, like, having, like, for the next session, having some of those, like, practical things of how to do. I think as all pediatricians, we've learned and we've trained by watching others and shadowing. And then I think that's a lot of what this peer support is too. But you watch, like, you know, a dozen pediatricians give a newborn exam, and then you kind of figure out how to do it yourself, or like how to give anticipatory guidance, what your anticipatory guidance looks like. So I think seeing others do it, like, we just did the Reach Out and Read program, and we had to watch like, a dozen videos of how to give a book at every single age. I almost feel like I want to watch a dozen videos of how to give ACEs at every single age and not just one provider. They had like, multiple providers showing us how to do that. And I think if we see it enough times, because we can't necessarily shadow everybody, we're too busy clinicians, but if we can have like a series of videos that we're watching or just, just mock videos, whether they're real patients or not, but just to see it, then we can start to see, okay, I got all this information. I've read all these books. I've watched these movies. I've attended these. It all makes sense. This is awesome information. I'm digesting that information, but now how am I actually going to apply that information? Because right now, if you say, okay, we're done after like 1 or 2 more sessions, I'll be like, oh man, I don't know what to do. So that's what I'd be still looking for, or maybe even extending these out a little bit longer, just till we have that. Because I'm really motivated. And I know the rest of our group is really motivated to do this. And those other pieces, once we feel confident, we can say, all right, this is how we're going to staff it. This is how we're going to, put them in these visits or those types of things. But I think that's the piece we're missing, is just having that digest it all, then the practical piece. And I don't know if I'm speaking for others, but that's how I've felt.
So Silvara, I don't want to argue, but you already do so much. You already counsel people on sleep. You already counsel them on reading, you said, Reach Out and Read. You already counsel parents to know developmental stages. This is all part of it. And I really like the idea that I just came up with today. I did this backwards. I went and learned about it and I jumped in doing it. And then I found a ship that was also sailing the same direction I was, but it was merely a couple of boards floating at the time, and we built a ship out of it. And we're still building the ship as we're sailing it. And that wasn't a really healthy way to do it. I can share the pitfalls of that. The way that we've done it here, I would argue that you already do a lot of what you need to do, and you already have a big heart because you want to do it. Dr. Labor has joked about last time being the how to flail, watch the video, all that. She really was thinking trauma informed. She knows it. We know what we need to do for our patients. I think the scary part is not knowing what you're going to uncover. And I think that the biggest part of this that I wish I had going in is how to then walk away from the trauma that I just heard and not carry it into my sleep and into my house and all that. So I think, spending some time on some self-care things we can do at the next session, when we are faced with a day where you might have multiple high scores. I think that would be something that we might do at that last session as well. But Savara, you're already doing a lot of it. There's so much that you already do. And just changing to a trauma-informed eye is kind of just thinking about what happened to people more than what's wrong with them, because we are trained in med school to fix problems. I remember the lecture. You find the problem, you fix it. If it goes well, it's your fault. If you don't fix it and you mess up, it's your fault too. That's the way I was trained. Keith is smiling. I know you were trained the same way. Like we were intended to fix problems, and we need to prevent them. And I think that's why teaching resilience globally, and pick your patients that are well put together and teach them resilience first. It's a great low hanging fruit to jump in and wet your feet. And then you'll be diving into the deep end, doing, all kinds of fancy dives very soon.
And we will
intention to continue those pure learning sessions. And I know it's Dr. Patterson's, Dr. Davis, Dr. Gillespie's intention to keep supporting those efforts too, so that try, fail, succeed, come back, talk about it, figure it out. I mean, hopefully that's a helpful way to do it. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if we can come up with any of these other ways of applying, I think that you guys probably know better than I do what that really means. So I don't.
These are excellent suggestions, and I think between the questions that Dr. Omer and Dr. Bradford were asking, and the ideas that Dr. Manser shared, I think that this is that we can help everybody raise their confidence level to be able to, you know, embark, you know, take that next step in this journey and not just feel like, okay, I have to jump in the water, but then what do I do once I hit the water, sort of a thing. This is great, you guys. We're going to call it quits for today. Thank you so much. Ask Dr. Gillespie some of these questions too. You know, we'll get that answer back from Dr. Bradford's here probably pretty soon. And really, really so much appreciate you guys taking this time out of your day. I know that it's a huge sacrifice and difficult. So really super appreciate it. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Dr. Davis and Dr. Patterson, for bringing your expertise. And thank you to Claudia, who helped us get that resource sheet together today and is taking roll. Oh, which reminds me, if you want to get your CME credits, you have to take those exams that we're going to send you. And if you haven't done the last one, go back and find it and like do it because not everybody did it. So we're not going to bug you too much. Do them.
Chop, chop. Thanks.
Thanks.
Y'all.
Thank you all.
And if we don't
Thank
see
you
you
all.
holidays, happy holidays. Enjoy.
Take care, everybody. Something
Bye,
kind for
everybody.
yourself. Bye-bye.
Bye.